Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show in partnership with Scroll.in and Scroll Global. This is episode number 225, but it's extra special because it's our Indiaspora Community Conversation, episode number 4, our monthly program with the incredible organization Indiaspora. Today, our topic is the future of the arts after the pandemic. And we have an all-star lineup of folks to talk to us. Vinita Belani is here, artistic director and founder of EnActe Arts. Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose is here. She is a curator of Indian, Southeast Asian, and Himalayan art at the Art Institute of Chicago. Grammy award-winning composer and environmentalist Ricky Cage is here. And so is Paliwal, award-winning vocalist, composer, songwriter, producer, and philanthropist. You will meet all of them in just a few minutes. But first, let me introduce you to my co-host and dear friend and the founder of Indiaspora, M.R. Rangaswamy. Welcome to the show. Welcome to your show.
Hey, thank you, Sree. This is incredible. 225. Congratulations. And it's our fourth show in partnership with you. So excited. And actually, because today is the Arts Day, I wore my arts shirt. I hope that's okay.
I can see you did. Folks, everyone who's watching, tell us where you're watching from. We're live right now on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Please share with your friends and family. People can watch us live or later. So please find us and please hit share. We're on the Indiaspora channels as well as mine, and we're very excited. Our friends at Indiaspora, MR and his team, have put together a fabulous panel. So I'm going to hand this over to MR and we'll get going. And then I'll come back and share some of the fabulous comments we'll be getting throughout the show.
Great. Thank you so much, Sree, and welcome everyone. This is our fourth monthly program with Sree that we're doing in partnership with him. And this one is about the arts. We decided today that we would look at the arts because this is an industry that has gone through tough times during the pandemic. So we wanted to catch up with all forms of artists, whether they're theater arts, visual arts, or music. We just wanted to get everybody involved in this conversation to find out how they're surviving and what the future holds for us. So as you know, Indiaspora is a nonprofit that focuses on community issues, political engagement, and philanthropy. And so arts is a big part of our community. And so for our first guest, we're happy to welcome a duo, Paliwal, who is a tremendously accomplished musician. She's performed with people like A.R. Rahman and others. And then, of course, she's collaborating in her latest album with a Grammy Award winner, like Sree said, Ricky Cage. Both are dear friends of ours. So we'd love to welcome both of them onto the stage. Great. Hi, Ela. Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Emma.
Hey guys, I know this is crazy time. I know, Ela, you're in either New York or Connecticut, somewhere on the East Coast. And Ricky comes to us live from Bengaluru, right?
Yeah.
So, very early in the morning here, yeah.
Very early. Thank you for taking the time. It looks like you're sitting in your studio, Ricky. Is that true?
Yes, I'm in my studio right now, yeah.
Fantastic. And so great to have you guys, and want to just catch up with you. What did the two of you do during the pandemic? It looks like you created something. So Ela, you want to tell us what's new and exciting during COVID?
Yeah, so I created this album, Ela the Earth Symphony, and Ricky is my composer and co-producer. We worked on it for almost 2 years, and we recorded a lot of it last year, but major part of it was done this year during pandemic. So it was quite challenging, but I think it was, for me personally, it was perfect antidote for this pandemic, when we were going through so much stress and bad news on television in March and April. I think this music and art and this project kept me going and, kept me happy and sane. So that's what we did.
Great. So Ricky, How are things in Bangalore or Bengaluru, I should say? And how did you feel? What did you feel about this collaboration, and how you two of you plus other musicians worked during this effort?
Now, of course, it was an amazing collaboration. As Ela pointed out, that we started this album last year, but the crux, the major part of the album was completed during the pandemic. So we had various challenges, put forth before us because of the pandemic in completing it. We also did a virtual concert together. So that also was quite a challenge, to have all these musicians from different parts of the world to collaborate on this virtual concert, which was pretty successful at the end of the day. So yeah, there are always challenges due to the pandemic, especially when it comes to live performances, because of course, when it comes to virtual concerts, you have the advantages and you have the disadvantages. The advantage, obviously, is that the world is your playground in terms of audience, because people from anywhere in the world can tune in. And secondly, even when it comes to collaborators, collaborating with somebody just down the road or somebody in South Africa is exactly the same when it comes to a virtual concert, because there are no logistical nightmares of flying down people and accommodation and things like that. But of course, the disadvantages are many, and they are huge. Instead of actually looking into the faces of your audience and feeding off the energy, you're looking into the lens of a camera, which can be quite daunting at times, and it requires a lot of evolving as a musician to actually be used to that. And secondly, when you're touring as a musician, you can tour to different countries. Like, you can go to Finland, play the songs that you want to do, that is your 12 songs you can play to. You can go to New York, play the same songs. Then you can go to France, you can play the same songs. Come to India, play the same songs. But then when it's a virtual concert, you're playing, you do this one concert for the whole world, and then after that, you cannot repeat the songs, because you're just repeating yourself again and again, and everybody has seen the song. So we just have to evolve, and we have to figure out this change in lifestyle for all of us musicians.
Terrific. Thanks, Ricky. And coming back to Ela again. So Ela, we were supposed to actually host you for a concert, I remember, at Kennedy Center and also in New York. And instead you did this virtual concert. How did you feel about that as a musician, and what were the challenges for you personally?
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, we were quite far advanced in booking. Kennedy Center was, they're going to sponsor along with you. In August, the concert was going to happen in Kennedy Center, and then Lincoln Center, we were exploring in New York City. And then we were also thinking to do it in Grammy Museum in LA. But the COVID changed everything. And then Ricky and I kind of brainstormed, and we said, should we or should we not do the virtual concert? But then we decided we should do the concert. First of all, this gives all the artists who have played on the album, as well as the new artists, a chance to feel, new energy and new excitement during these very, very tough times. And so we decided to do the virtual concert. And I'm a big patron of art, visual arts as well. I love to go to galleries. I collect some art. So I wanted to also add the visual aspect of art in this music, because when you're sitting in front of screen, musicians, people are bombarded because everybody's doing virtual concerts. So how do you differentiate? How do you bring various aspects of art?
Sorry, I think Ela is breaking up. So maybe Ricky, you can pick it up. So I know you did this whole album and a virtual concert. How many artists were involved? Just take us through the logistical challenges of that.
Oh, there were quite a few artists involved, actually, in the sense that I do not know the exact number, but they were in excess of, the number of people who are involved in the virtual concert, including people behind the scenes and editors and color graders and things like that. You're looking at at least about 100 people involved. And in this case, from at least about 20 or 25 different cities all over the world. So it was quite a challenge, but at the same time, you learn how to work remotely. You learn how to do this effectively. So the pandemic has taught all of us a lot of things. It's taught all of us, especially when it comes to projects like this, it's taught us a lot about time management. It's taught us a lot about not taking things for granted. So yeah, I mean that it was quite a challenge, but we managed to overcome it together, Ela and me.
Great. And Ricky, can you set up this video clip we're going to show of your collaboration? Can you set up the song and what we're going to see?
So the album itself, Ela, the Earth Symphony, that's the name of the album. The album itself was about, it's a celebration of our environment. It's a celebration of our biodiversity, celebration of our planet itself and the natural world. So this particular song is a song called Vriksha, and it's a clip from the virtual concert that we are speaking about. It's a song that celebrates our forests and our wildlife, simply because, without our forests and wildlife, we ourselves as a human species cannot survive, and nature itself is a reflection of nature is a reflection of ourselves, and the pain and suffering that we inflict on nature is pain and suffering that eventually will be inflicted on ourselves. So we need to celebrate the natural world, and we need to absolutely acknowledge that our sustainability depends upon us protecting our natural world around us.
Great. So let's play the song.
पंछी पंछी डाल डाल पर बैठ बोले आई ऋतु बसंत की खगवा मृग डोले पंछी पंछी डाल डाल पर बैठ बोले आई ऋतु बसंत खगवा मृग डोले वने वने निवसन्त वृक्षाः वनं वनं रचयन्ति वृक्षाः वने वने निवसन्त वृक्षाः वनं वनं रचयन्ति वृक्षाः
Wow. Wow, that was a beautiful song, Ricky and Ela. I'm sure you guys must be proud of this baby that you guys produced. Ela, can you hear us? I think Ela is having some technical problems. Sorry
I think
about
I
that.
lost.
Yeah, I think
you
you're
guys.
breaking up. Yeah. So sorry, Ricky, for the technical issues here. But what was the feedback from your virtual concert?
No, of course, the feedback was quite tremendously positive, and I'm very, very thrilled about that. And people appreciated the concert. People appreciated the message behind it, and of course, everybody appreciated Ela's voice, which was very nice, and her performance style. So yeah, so I'm just very thrilled with the response that we got, and we just have to carry it forward. That's all.
Great, Ricky and Ela, thank you so much. We'll have you back in a few minutes, but we want to now kind of get our next guest, Vinita Belani. Vinita is the founder of EnActe Arts. It's a theater company and plus more. And so we want to talk to Vinita about how do you run a theater company during COVID. So Vinita, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, MR, Sree, all the wonderful artists and art makers on the show.
So
Very
tell us, I mean, when you have a theater company and you can't perform live, what were you thinking? What did you plan on doing? I mean, it must be pretty stressful times, but it looked like you've kind of gone past it to actually creating things during the pandemic.
Yeah. You know, they say that theater is the only art that you cannot perform solo. Even if you're a theater artist who's a solo artist, you need at least one person in the audience physically present in order to interact with that person. So if that person is not physically present, then it's not theater anymore, it becomes film. And so when you run a theater company and the very premise on which your whole astitva is founded, that gets completely removed, then what do you do? So it was an interesting question we had to grapple with for a little while. And then we were in the middle of writing a strategy document for EnActe, which was kind of timely because we were really, searching deep within ourselves and saying, what does this theater company in this day and age mean? Why do we exist? And so we moved away from theater production for a while, and we focused on the 4 C's that were in our strategy document. There was community, conversation, collaboration, and content development. And so those have been our focus areas. In community, for example, we did a crowdfunding campaign and we got a lot of money. Thank you, everyone. And we started running radio play programs for seniors in senior centers because they were the ones that were the most lonely. They were locked in. They didn't have the same kind of interaction. And so we taught them how to write radio plays, perform radio plays, and then turn them into audio plays that they can share with their family and friends. We started theater classes for kids. Then we started having conversations because, as Ricky and Ela rightly pointed out, when a door closes, a couple of windows always open up. And international, I call this my Einstein bubble, because now space and time have become completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Relative. So you can do anything with anybody right now. And so we had an opportunity to have conversations just like this one with amazing artists all across the world who are doing amazing stuff and just bring their work into the living room of our audience and our donors. So that was the community and the conversation part. And then the third part that I, really love, the third and fourth part, is the collaboration and the content creation. We are working with a whole bunch of new playwrights to work on new play development. We have a program called Playful at EnActe, where we present new playwrights and we give them a platform in which to bring together actors, directors, workshop plays, present it in semi-staged read formats, get feedback. So there is a process of development of content that is happening that is very strong. We recently inked in June a collaboration with Rage Theatre in India, and we put out a call for plays about the COVID situation. And we got 37 plays, of which we are going to produce 5 in the next year. But right now we are working with the playwrights to workshop their plays out of the 5 that we've picked. And then there are another 2 that are possibles that we might do in the year after. So that's it's been quite, and then of course, just the idea of actually doing a play, if it's not in the real space, then it becomes a cine play, because then it has to be cinematic and presented to you digitally. So I collaborated with a company called Stage Smith, and the artistic director of Stage Smith, Denzel Smith, and I decided we were going to indulge ourselves and both act in a play. And of course, just to make it fun, we picked a director from the UK. So we have one Bay Area actor, one Mumbai actor, and one UK director. And the play that we picked was Letters to a Daughter from Prison, which is this beautiful, incredible play about the relationship that Jawaharlal Nehru creates with his daughter when he's in prison or when he's traveling on the work of, gaining independence for the country. He decides that the physical distance is not going to deter him from creating a nurturing, a formative, and deeply loving relationship with his only child. And you start to see through those letters something incredibly beautiful, a relationship between a father and daughter. That was really the making of Indira, this shy, slightly socially inept young teenager, and how she blossomed and all the ideals that she grew up with that Nehru imparted to her. He was an incredible writer and an incredible poet, and this conversation between the two of them. So we've had a chance to do stuff like that. And so, yes, it's not theater in a traditional form, but honestly, Amar, I'm not complaining.
No,
we are stretching ourselves. We are
absolutely no, and sometimes it's adversity creates new things, like you said. And so you've kind of done this collaboration with someone in India, the UK, and the Bay Area. So, and I know you're going to kind of introduce this whole program this coming weekend, I think.
Yes,
but,
we open worldwide on Friday.
Right? I know, but I think we'd love to see a sneak preview if you have that. Do you have that handy?
Sure, we can do a trailer for you.
Okay, let's look at it.
Do a sneak peek. If I were to describe my father, I would say he was humanity in a human being. He was deeply sensitive. In fact, I would say he was far more of a poet than a politician.
My daughter Indira grew up in a terribly strange time. With me, her father, always in jail or otherwise occupied in the struggle for freedom.
I have a warrant for your arrest.
Papu, I wish I could go to jail too.
Indu, going to jail is a trivial matter in a world that is being shaken to its foundations. Now, you take good care of Mummy, you hear?
Don't forget to write long, long letters. This is how Papu and I communicated, through letters. For through our letters, we could peer into the depths of each other's minds. There is no artifice in letters.
How are you, Indu? I got a letter from a friend. He asked me how my Indu is, and I don't know. My dearest, most loving Indu. I saw Mummy after just 3 months. She looked well and I rejoiced. But she told me that you were not as cheerful as you might have been and sometimes you feel a bit depressed. Have you forgotten the sovereign virtue of plum pudding?
Plum pudding.
Plum pudding, yes. None of us, least of all you, has any business to be depressed and to look it.
Oh, wow. So I love plum pudding.
It was that thing. They had a lot of, little connectors that are beautiful. And she talks later on in letters about how plum pudding became the connector with her and her children as well.
Right.
Anyway,
so this is fantastic. So this show is opening, or rather this virtual event starts this Friday? Right?
This Friday.
And people can go to enactarts. What's your website?
So our tickets are available at enacte.org, and that's enacte.org. And you can even look for them on Eventbrite US, Eventbrite UK, and Book My Show India.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Vinita. We'll continue this conversation in a little bit, but fantastic. I laud you for how you created something during these tough times. Next up, we have Madhuvanti Ghose. Madhu is a curator at the Chicago Institute of Art. And this is one of the best museums. If you've never been there, highly recommend it, except for the past several months, it was closed. So would love to hear from Madhu as to what the Institute did, what she personally did. So let's have Madhu Ghose come up with us.
Thank you, MR. Hi, Sree. Actually, we're open now.
Yes.
We did go through this horrible few months of trying to pivot to working from home and, having to postpone all our exhibitions. But we were able to then open in July and even open a massive exhibition on Monet in Chicago this fall. So, of course, it's really sad that we are not able to have the kind of visitor numbers that we would normally have for a Monet show. But, despite the circumstances, I think it's quite incredible that we're able to open. A lot of other museums across the country are just beginning to open. But Chicago, I think, well, touch wood, because we're in just the start of the second wave. But Chicago handled the first wave very seriously. So we were able to open in the summer, in the late summer.
So what was it like? I mean, in terms of, did you change anything in the museum other than having fewer people? What actually happened?
We had to change everything. I mean, social distancing means that you have to have, the staff still work from home. We only come in when we have to, to install something or whatever. So you just come, you have the minimum amount of staff because we changed our opening hours. We wanted to have, initially we thought we would open in the evenings, but then COVID meant that people were actually not going out so much in the evenings. So in the fall, we decided to change our opening hours again. So it's a little bit of an experiment, and trying to see what works with people, just being very responsive to what's been happening and reassuring to people so that they can buy their tickets in advance and they can come and see their show. And actually people are quite enjoying the experience of almost having an exhibition to themselves, not quite, but the museum is not that busy as a result of limited numbers that we can have in. But I think what has been really interesting is how all of us had to pivot to not just working from home. I was in the middle of a curatorial leadership fellowship when this happened. And, COVID really makes you think about leadership. And so it kind of made me think about what I really wanted to focus on, which was Indian art and mentoring. So I was already doing quite a bit of mentoring, but I just decided to take it up a whole different notch. And we started to, I worked with the US mission in India to put on a whole curatorial workshop, on Zoom, thank God for Zoom. And we had an incredible amount of response. We could only sadly take 15 students at a time. So I'm going to run the program again, in November, December. And, because it's all virtual, you're able to get speakers from America, which otherwise would not work. And it's before my American work day. So I literally have an entire India work day and an American work day. And I'm even more productive than before. So, there are, as I was saying to Vinita a short while ago, I have a lot to be grateful for.
No, that's fantastic. And we just saw on the screen the Monet in Chicago event, and it looks like an incredible set of paintings there.
Yeah, it's very specific to our patrons in Chicago. Chicago has arguably the best Monets outside of France. So it's really worth coming to see if you happen to be in Chicago.
Stunning.
Just get your tickets in advance.
Yeah, stunning to see those water lilies and other great paintings. So thank you so much for that update here, Madhu. And let's get the entire group here because, and maybe Sree wants to come in as well because there have been some comments. Maybe Sree, you want to also join us?
Hi, everybody. That was just a great start to the conversation. Thank you so much. And Mr. Tell me how you thought of this particular episode and what you've already learned from them.
Yeah, so when COVID started, of course, Indiaspora, like every other organization, had to go virtual. Then we started looking at different groups. How do business people work? How do academia works? And now how does the artistic community work? So again, what we're trying to do is to bring all our community together to really share ideas, do innovative things like what you see Ela and Ricky and Vinita and Madhu have done. Just expose that, get a conversation going as to what the future holds for the art. So that's kind of what we've done, Sree.
That's fantastic. It'll be great to just hear from Ela what it's like to be in conversation with folks in so many different fields, and just to hear your thoughts, Ela.
No, it's wonderful. Music, and it's so to see that what Madhuvanti has done, and also Vinita. It's very inspiring. I think art is the perfect antidote to this pandemic and the depression that people are feeling. I think we need to keep creating and putting it out in the world and get the positive energy of art to the universe so everybody can benefit. And we will have the vaccine. We will go through this tough time. It could be 2021 or 2022, but as human race, we cannot live without, packed concert halls and art displays and art galleries and, just being back to normal. It'll take some time, but it'll all happen. So I really congratulate all my fellow panelists for doing what they're doing. And let's keep doing this.
Ela, you're so right, because, one of the things we realized is how much people have needed art in the middle of the pandemic. We've had incredible response to all our digital, whether it's the blogs, whether it's the films that we're making about objects. I mean, we just can't keep up. I mean, and this is not just about us. This is all museums across the world. The digital content can't get out fast enough. People really have a need for that, for turning to the arts at a time like this. And whether it's music, whether it's cinema, whether it's theater, whether it's the visual arts, I think this is what's kept people going. And I think that's so, it really kind of humbles you and makes you kind of want to be even, producing even more and more, because you realize why we all do it.
Exactly.
And how much people respond to it at a time like this.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. I think all of you bring up a good point, which is incredible interest in the artistic community, what you guys do. The question is, what is the business model? Because the old business model was you got to get people to a venue or to kind of subsist. What is going to happen in this new model when things are virtual, people don't want to pay? How do you guys envision the arts working in the future? Go ahead, Vinita.
I'm going to tell you a little story because that is my function in the universe now, is to tell stories. We have an performer artist, Danish Hussain, who does something called Kissebazi, which is a form of dastan goi. And I had been telling him since the lockdown, Danish, hamare liye ek show kar do, please do a show for us. And he says, are you mad? I'm not going to do anything on camera. I'm a people-to-people person. It took me 3 months to convince him. And then he did this incredible storytelling show. But, he was up close and personal like I am with you. We could only see his face. And we had about 150 people in the room. It was a 1-hour performance, and there were 130 people in the talkback, and the talkback was for an hour and a half. They were so curious to know what Danish does, to propagate this art form and how he runs his artistic endeavors and everything. He inspired them so much that one of them actually said, can you start a fund so that we can start funding Danish's efforts in what he's doing now is collecting folk tales from all over India in regional languages and teaching young storytellers the art of telling the story in their own native tongues. So suddenly we had this fund. People, somebody started it with $1,000 and other people put money into it. And we paid Danish a pittance for performance because that's all we had was pittance. And so I think the art speaks for itself. As soon as you make that human connection, people jump in. I mean, I was just blown away with the crowdfunding campaign that we did for our senior radio plays, because people who I didn't even realize follow EnActe in any way, shape, or form put in, $50, $20, $30. But the seniors over the last 6 months in various communities have benefited from having a teacher just teach them how to write stories about their existence. So the community rallies through. I think that's the message that we want, if we can put ourselves out there.
Great. And how about the music community? Ela and Ricky, I know, Ricky, you've played in concerts for 10,000 people, 20,000 people. Ricky, so what does the future hold for folks like you and Ela?
So I believe that we as musicians need to innovate, and we need to figure out how to make our careers more and more sustainable. Of course, we've got a duty also during this pandemic. And I believe that that music is a really powerful language, not just for communicating a message, but for also retaining that message deep in the consciousness of a listener. So we need to give hope, we need to give entertainment, we need to showcase the various messages that need to go out to people in order to protect themselves from the pandemic. But more importantly, we need to bring people together through music, simply because you would imagine that, that a common enemy that the whole world has, which is this particular virus, would actually, bring the world together. But that's not the case, unfortunately, that the divides have deepened, people have become more and more polarized. And in that way, I think the arts needs to bring people together, and it's our function to do that. But at the same time, it's a responsibility to ourselves and to the entire art ecosystem that we need to ensure that we have to make our careers more and more sustainable. And and more, when it comes to music, I can tell you this, that that we've innovated since time immemorial. Like if you look at the late 1800s and early 1900s in India, music, the business model when it came to music was all about baitaks, where you would have a classical musician, and people would come from far off places to their homes. They would give them donations, they would sit down and listen to them perform. And then they all got so stressed when gramophones came into India, because they were like, if somebody records our music, then nobody's going to come home and nobody's going to listen to us when we're home. This is going to destroy our careers. But then they adapted, to shellacs, where they would record 2 songs on a shellac, then 2 vinyls, where they would make albums, then cassettes and CDs. And then it became streaming. Then it became subscription models, where people are not selling their music. Everything was on streaming, and and the end user wanted everything on subscription models. And then now with the pandemic, things have changed, where you need to stagger your releases. You need to constantly be relevant, because if you're not online, then you're absolutely invisible. But then that comes to a new problem, which we are facing right now in the 7th or the 8th month of the pandemic, that there is a lot of digital fatigue that people are feeling. People do not, engagement levels are coming down. I was speaking with people at Facebook and YouTube, and they were telling me that the engagement levels when it comes to live concerts is coming down. So we need to move towards a model which is more, private concerts, rather than concerts just spread out to the whole world and things like that. So basically, it's an evolutionary process, and we will figure it out. That's the word. That's what it needs to be.
Great. Ela, anything you want to add to this?
Yeah.
Because there's so many facets to music. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we definitely need public and private funding. Many countries in Europe, they have increased the funding for arts, because arts are important, and so we need to rally about that. Musicians do need to get paid. Mostly in India and in the US, people have this mentality, oh, we are doing a charity show perform for free. So I think that the mentality has to change, because everybody has to pay bills. So you do need to do that. And I think this fatigue of virtual concerts, maybe we need to start ticketing these concerts, and having people to register and pay for it, and maybe not do so many. Be selective. Right now everybody's bombarded. Everybody's doing a virtual concert. So it is a tough time right now. It is very tough. There's no denying about it. But hopefully, as soon as the vaccine comes out and we can get back to normal concert scene, I think things will get back to where they were, and live concerts will always be, because as audience we want to go and experience. It's the whole experience of going out of your house, getting ready, getting dressed, having dinner with your friends, and then attending an opera or concert. I think there's something to be said about that, which digital, visual on Facebook and YouTube, you cannot achieve that. So it's a tough time for next 18 months or so, but things will go back to normal. I'm pretty confident.
Great, thank you. And
folks, I want to remind everyone that we're right now live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Please tag your friends. Please share this. What a great conversation we're having. Our show is in partnership with our friends at Indiaspora, and we are learning about various aspects of the arts. So please tell us where you're watching from, and please ask some questions. We'd love to get you into this conversation as well. MR, back to you.
Thank you, Sree. And now let's go over to the museums. I think, Madhu, you said you've got so much interest on the virtual side of the house that you're so busy and doing things globally and so forth. So the question is, are you starting to monetize that? Because initially you probably did everything for free because it was goodwill and all that. But how do you move this forward when you don't get as many visitors to the museum, at least in the next year? Do you start monetizing and charging for the virtual part?
We haven't, we do charge for the virtual programming, but we're just starting that because initially the first few months we didn't even pivot to virtual programs. It took a while to kind of pivot. And so we found ourselves in this situation where, of course, the ticket sales, which is such a huge part of all institutions, that kind of fell out completely with the lockdown. But some of our institutions are a little protected by the fact that we have very large endowments. And then the Association of Art Museum Directors also very early on gave permission for museum directors, just for a very short period of time, to be able to tap into certain funds that they were getting for other purposes, that they could reuse that, for example, for salaries. So the focus became in the initial months for most institutions of all sizes was trying to protect the staff. But of course, many institutions are having to lay off people over the last few months. And even today, the Nelson Atkins just announced some more staff cuts. And that is going to continue in our field because so many museums are actually not supported by the government or their local governments or even their cities. They might get a proportion of their funds from the city, but that doesn't really cover most of the funds. I mean, it's partially, your shop, your restaurant, and the museum entrance that you use along with, the money that patrons bring in. But I think for institutions that are very large, like the Art Institute, endowments, of course, trying to work with our patrons to see whether, we could use the funds, towards protecting as much of the staff as possible, restructuring. Many institutions have gone through massive restructuring, and I'm expecting that is going to continue depending on what happens this fall, winter. So I think it's going to bite even more by next year. So I don't know about getting back to normal, because I think by 2021 and moving forward, that's going to be a whole different universe in which we are going to be working. But you try as much as possible to keep your patrons, especially your close patrons, even closer around you at times like this. And I think that has been the massive lesson in all of this, is that US museums are very different from museums in other parts of the world, in Europe or even in Asia, and particularly in India, which are all primarily funded by the government. Here, the responsibility has been for our trustees to try to support the institution. And really, it's all back to the endowment. Endowment. That's what the non-for-profits is all about.
Well, we have some great patrons of the arts right here who are artists themselves, but are also patrons, including Ela and MR and others. And we have many comments and questions coming in, so let me just read them out very quickly. Rick says, embrace creativity and diversity to let the human spirit soar despite the adversity. Thank you, Rick. Kaikasi says, good to hear from the artistic community. Leslie says, watching from Washington, D.C., very important discussion. Thank you. Sushma says, if we are moving towards private concerts, then are we moving towards arts for the elite? So, Ricky, let's get your thoughts on that question.
No, actually, it's what I meant by private concerts is that instead of performing one concert to the whole world, perform multiple concerts for different parts of the world, like how we would normally do a live concert or a tour or something like that. Because I feel that your messaging during your concert can be a lot more effective if you're speaking to one demographic rather than if you're trying to speak to the whole world and you're speaking to multiple people of multiple languages and multiple traditions all over the world. So I would say that just like how you would do a world tour of 20 or 25 cities through a year, so like that, I would say that that you would sort of do a world tour through virtual concerts rather than doing one big concert for the whole world.
Makes sense. Well, we have another question from Leslie. She says, how will the smaller organizations and artists survive when there is no audience and theaters are still closed? So maybe there's a question for Vinita.
Thank you for asking that question, Leslie. It's really difficult for organizations and artists. I personally know in our greater area where we operate of almost 14 theater companies that have closed doors, because everybody depends on audience. There is, I think people in the community just need to make a commitment to start paying whatever it is that they can pay to consume art, pay for a theater ticket, even if it's just $10 or $5. Also, community foundations have been very helpful in supporting theater organizations because the funding for community foundations comes from corporations. And corporations have stepped up, corporations with a conscience, especially corporations who care about community. So if you work for a corporation that is in a position to donate to a community foundation, you should push them to do it, because most of our money for theater and other arts organizations at the moment is coming not from the government and not from individuals, but from either community foundations or arts support organizations. Having said that, artists are struggling. Artists are having to go into other careers that they are not qualified or prepared for. And the degree of depression among artists actually is very high at this moment. So think about artists. Donate to an arts organization, anything you can in this moment. It will, artists, healthcare workers are the first responders, but artists are the second responders in a community. They keep the soul of the community alive. So I'm making a plug. Donate generously to any arts organization that catches your fancy.
May I also just point out that I had no idea we had Indira Gandhi's reincarnation here. It was you did a great job. It was quite stunning when you showed up as Indira Gandhi. I was not expecting it like that, and I kind of took a
I thought I disguised myself pretty well, but can't disguise my voice. What to do?
I love the gray hair.
Yeah,
I love the gray hair.
And the Nehru was very realistic. Also, do you want to give a shout out to your partner?
Oh my God, Denzel Smith is an amazing actor. He acts in Hollywood films, Bollywood films, films in the UK. He just acted in Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Before that, he played Jinnah in Gurinder Chadha's Viceroy House. And he has actually played Nehru in this very play 30 years ago when Lavon Mueller wrote it. She's a New York-based playwright. And she wrote the play because she said never in her experience, she's a playwright who focuses on feminist content. And she said never in her experience had she seen anywhere in the Western world a father so committed to making a daughter the best that she could possibly be. And I think that is the best reason in the world for writing a play. So Denzel, when the play first opened, Denzel played Nehru 30 years ago, and it was a role he wanted to reprise. Of course, he had Sharnaz Patel, who is a fantastic actor, against him as Indira in that time. And then I just decided to close my eyes and take the plunge and say, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And like
Awesome. So that is, and Ela, I know you work globally with different artists, people like A.R. Rahman and others. Generally, what are artists like him and others doing to stay with the patrons, with the public, and how do they kind of move forward, you think?
I think a lot of artists are trying to be very, very active on social media just because you need to. Sometimes it's really tiring, but you have to be connected with your with your audience, with your fans, because the artist, as Ricky said, if you're not touring live, then how do you keep connection with your fans and your audience? So, and a lot of artists are also producing a lot of work, which is, not necessarily they're able to perform live for their audience, but they're keeping at it. And I think that's a pretty important thing as artists we all can do, so that whenever we are ready to go out, we will go out in full swing and perform live.
Great. Sree, anything else coming our way from?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there are lots of great comments, and one of the things that strikes me is that we are hoping that everything will go back to normal because things have been so painful. Can each of you talk about one thing that's been positive for you as an artist at this moment? So Ricky, and then Vinita, Ila, and Madhuvanti. Let's go that way. So Ricky?
I guess the one thing that is positive is that all of us artists have learned how to be completely self-sufficient, because the thing is that, unfortunately, during this pandemic, we've all learned that, that we have to be jacks of all trades, and that's the only way you can survive. You need to know how to create music. You need to know how to produce it. You need to know how to record it yourself, market yourself, learn how to stream on various platforms, and understand how the various platforms and social media work. So as our Prime Minister says that everybody has to be Atmanirbhar, I think, it's time for all of us to be Atmanirbhar in our own art fields and ensure that we can do everything ourselves. And also, I believe that, that everybody talks about, that we are going to get to normal and we have to wait for it, and it's waiting it out. Even though I do believe that, that is true to some extent, but I believe that all artists have to understand that this probably is the way forward, what we are in right now. And this is going to be here for a very long time, and we have to think accordingly. And only then we can probably survive, because we have to think that we are in it for a long struggle now, and we have to adapt. And the sooner we adapt to this new lifestyle, the better it is going to be for our careers.
Okay, before we go to Vinita, just Ricky, tell us your environmental connection, all this great work you do. How did you connect it to your music? And I know even Ila's album is connected, the planet and the music come together.
So the only kind of music that I make is about the environment, sustainability, and positive social impact. So that has not changed. And I mean that as a musician, I have to constantly express myself. So whether pandemic or no pandemic, or live concerts or no live concerts, I'm going to constantly express myself in any medium that I'm possibly going to get. But one thing that this pandemic has taught us, and what I've tried to stress through my music and through my narratives, is that, when it came to climate change, which is, in my opinion, the biggest existential crisis we humans have ever faced, everybody said that, in the past, everybody said that nobody's going to change, and, nobody's going to bring about behavioral change. Nobody's going to stop going out in their cars. Nobody's going to stop flying in planes. Leaders are not going to take strong decisions, which is going to go against the economy. But then the pandemic has shown us that if people are, if it's communicated effectively enough to people that there is clear and imminent danger to themselves or to the lives of their loved ones, then they are very capable of strong behavioral change. And that's what's happened with this pandemic. So I believe that climate change needs to be effectively communicated, and we artists, whatever kind of art we are in, we artists need to effectively communicate that climate change is no longer a thriving problem, but it is a survival problem. It's an existential problem. And we need to communicate the dangers of this. Or, as I say in a very light fashion, that we need to hire the publicist of COVID and use the publicist for climate change and communicate the messages of climate change effectively. So that's what we need to do as artists.
Thank you, Ricky. Let's go to Vinita.
I think Ricky said it all, from Atmanirbharta to climate, change and being environmentalists and making ourselves relevant to this new reality. This reality is here to stay. Once you've learned to consume art from the comfort of your, comforter or your living room, so far, you're not always going to want to go out to do it. You're still going to want to have this need. I think the one thing that I would add to what Ricky said is, we are, as I said, in an Einsteinian world where space and time is relative. And so we should take advantage of every kind of collaboration from every different corner of the world. Because when the physical world opens up, those possibilities will start to taper off. And so if I really like an actor in Australia and a director in Azerbaijan, I really want to do that play now, because this is my moment, So what we have lost in physical interaction in real time, we have gained in creating a virtual world that is completely global. And we should be playing in that virtual global world.
Thank you. Let's go to Ela.
Yeah, I think Vinita said it very well, that this pandemic, one of the positive is that as we connected, Ricky and I connected with so many artists. If we were to do that live concert at the Kennedy Center, we would probably have 25 artists, but now we have almost 100 artists from different parts of the world, and they all performed, and we stitched it together in virtual concert. Instead of 1,000 people in the theater, we had 280,000 spectators who watched the virtual concert. So I think the world has become much smaller, and people are learning about each other due to this virtual interaction that we all are having right now. So that's a positive part of this pandemic. People are learning about each other's cultures and learning that as human beings, we are all, we have more similarities than differences. And so we are more united in that sense. And we all are taking the precautions. Everybody is wearing the mask, the clever ones. Obviously, there are few people who are we know are against it, but so this has brought world together, and I feel that having grown-up children, I don't remember spending so much time with my family together in one household, and everybody's working from different parts of the home. So that's a very pleasant feeling for me personally. So I think that has been a silver lining, to have a closer connection, not with the rest of the world, but with your own family as well, because we all are in this together.
Thank you, Ela. Let's go to Madhuvanti.
Well, of course, I agree with all my co-panelists about the whole global nature of our work today. But I'd just like to finish by adding that I think one of the things that has also had a huge impact on the arts, and especially within the curatorial field, has been the whole social justice movement. And I do want to say that, again, I feel that this move for greater equity and diversity and transparency across, whether that's about funding, whether that's about our patrons, whether that's about our donors who've donated the art, or whether it's about opening our worlds to artists from all across the world. I think this is a very positive thing. And yes, we are all convulsing within that right now. We're all kind of self-questioning. But that is something we do need to go through to get to the other side. And I think that perhaps, I don't know whether we needed a pandemic to make us, face this and confront it, but it's a little bit like the whole issue about climate change, that we did need to confront it. So I do see a very different world coming out where we're going to be emerging. And the more we adapt to it from now and we embrace it, I think all of our respective fields are going to be enriched by it.
Thank you. Let me bring in MR. And MR, tell us a little bit more about Indiaspora and what you are doing to stay connected and in the lives of your members. I know you've been growing your membership.
Yeah, so just like everyone else, Sree, we had to completely go virtual starting March. And like many of the panelists said here, that allowed us to get people we could never have brought together, because everybody was there and everybody had time and was willing to give the time, and it's also more sustainable to side with Ricky. They didn't have to get on a plane or a train or to get anywhere. They could easily collaborate easily come on our shows and our events. We had so many incredible people in the past, like Dr. Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, Deepak Chopra. We had Geeta Gopinath, the IMF chief economist, Vinod Khosla, the leading venture capitalist, so many different people. Ramesh Wadhwani, leading philanthropist. Everyone we were able to pull into our show and our different events. That was one. And the second thing, the community really got closer, like Vinita and others mentioned. These are crazy, challenging times. So the people in our membership really wanted to see each other, wanted to meet each other, even if it's on Zoom. It was great to see another face that they'd met before and couldn't see them for a while. So I think a lot of that has happened. And so we've also completely changed our event schedule to go virtual. And our members we've been very, very generous in terms of their contributions to the organization. But our team, I have to give a shout out to the Indiaspora team, Sanjeev Joshipura, our executive director, Mansi Patel, who runs all our communications, Rucha, Raka, Ashish, who runs our engagement. I mean, they've all been working 24/7, but I think they're getting a lot out of it because we've been able to do incredible things that nobody has been able to do before, like running a philanthropy summit, both for India and the US on 2 separate times. I mean, these are things in the past, we'd have to fly people from India to the US and US to India. All that has gone away. But I think, like many of the panelists have said, people are pining to get back together, to give each other a hug, to have a drink, to have coffee. I mean, that has to come back, but I think it's going to be a while till that happens. One thing I want to also mention at this time is in diaspora support of the arts. There's been a fantastic movie festival, many of you have heard, in the Seattle area called Tasveer, which used to be a physical event in the past in Seattle. Last year, they screened Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel laureate's movie there. The price is free. And this year they've gone virtual, like movie festivals going virtual. And in fact, we are privileged next weekend, I believe it's October 30th, and there'll be more information on the Indiaspora site coming forth, is a movie, Indian movie that's going to be screened in conjunction with Indiaspora and Tasveer. At the end of it, we're meeting this amazing director, woman director, who's going to be in conversation with our dear friend Nina Davaluri, the former Miss America. So that's going to happen on October 30th. More information on the Indiaspora site. So we got to keep this going in any which way we can to promote all the fantastic things these artists are doing. So same thing with Vinita's show coming up this weekend, Letters to Your Daughter from Prison. Again, Indiaspora is sponsoring that event. There are going to be 4 different shows, Vinita, I think.
So 3 in the US, 4 in India, and 2 in UK time. I mean, they're not physically in any location, but, time conducive to Asia, America, and Europe.
Happy to sponsor that. Like I said, we were going to sponsor Ela and Ricky and with them together at Kennedy Center and Lincoln Theater and all these places. Hopefully we'll do that.
Yes, we will definitely do that. I'm an optimist.
I want to point out, MR, your team is, it's a small team, but they do so much. You do so well. I also want to tell everybody that at your event in 2018, one of the folks who came and spoke at your event at the Indiaspora Forum, Geeta Anand, has just been named the Dean of the Berkeley School of Journalism, the first woman to be named to that position, one of the best journalism schools in the world, and that just happened in the Bay Area. So congrats to Geeta, but it's all part of the Indiaspora family, and that's what's so exciting.
And Madhu, I think we need to come to Chicago when things are a little bit better for you to kind of walk us through the museum, and give your perspective to all of us.
I would love to do that. I'd love to have all of you come and visit. And, well, hopefully to see Monet, otherwise something else even more spectacular.
The Indian and South Asian arts at the Art Institute are amazing, and they're all under Madhuvanti. So everyone, when you get a chance, please go and check all of that out as well.
And one thing, Sree, I want to do as a wrap up, I think I picked a lot of things that different people in the arts community should explore. One thing is, I think, Ela, you brought up public-private partnership, more funding of the arts. I think that's something the US, we should get more vocal about. I think in Europe, a lot of funding happens, but in the US, it doesn't. So I think that's one. The second thing I think, Madhu, you mentioned was closest to your customer, to your patrons. Get close to people who support you. This is the time to do that, right? That's another thing I picked up. And Vinita, from you, crowdfunding as well. It's not been maybe used as much, but again, a great way to pull people in, to pull the larger public in. The other one that Ricky brought up, focused, targeted, almost niche marketing of your product, whatever that is, if it's music or a show. Like Vinita, you're doing your letters to your daughter is going to show in different time zones. That kind of stuff that Ricky brought up as well. If you do a show in India, you sing your Indian songs. And if you sing it in New York, you put a different set together. So that came up. And then the final thing that came up that all of you seem to be doing is collaboration, across the world. I mean, this is a fantastic time to do that. So I think all of you have given us such hope and such good ideas for the future. I think, 2021 might be difficult, but I think it's also going to be very creative for all of us.
Emma, don't be surprised if
thoughts from your side.
Don't be surprised if the four of us collaborate on a show now.
Yes,
You know what?
There are
That would make my day.
opportunities in every moment.
Absolutely. I can imagine a piece of art being in the show,
Right?
Ricky and Leela collaborating on music,
Yeah.
and Indira Gandhi maybe narrating the event.
Ricky and I did collaborate. We brought the sand artist, the puppeteer, and in our show. So that was the whole idea, to bring all arts together. So absolutely, Vinita, we are ready.
All right. I'm calling you up tomorrow.
Actually, if I may add, on a more positive note, if you look at this whole pandemic and what it has done to the arts, it can be likened to what happened when television started. When television started, everybody said that nobody's going to go out to watch movies, but then things evolved into the blockbuster movies where people created beautiful experiences where people would come out of their homes. It's the same with the internet. Everybody said that, that libraries, museums, live events are going to be a thing of the past. So I believe that the arts is never going to go out of fashion. Artists are never going to go out of fashion. The struggle is to keep ourselves relevant, So it's not about saving the arts, because we are not here to save the arts. The arts is always going to be there. Artists are always going to be there. We just have to figure out how to make ourselves relevant.
Here.
Very good point.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We can't become dinosaurs, so we have to keep evolving.
Absolutely. And keep up the great work. And we'll check in with you maybe, next year, 2021, to see how things are doing. And Sree, back to you to close the show.
Sure. I just want to say thank you. And my mom, who's a wonderful artist and dancer, as you can see in her image here on Facebook, she says hello from Kerala. So all of us who have been to Kerala know how wonderful it is. I hope all of us can get to travel again and be with our loved ones the way Ela is able to be with her family. We wish everyone the very best. I saw Vinita's little heart that she showed there, big heart. And to everyone, please stay safe. There's still, this country, we are still in deep trouble, as we know, with the number of new cases and the number of deaths. So especially with everything going to happen over the next 2 weeks with the elections, we're so concerned about how everything. So everyone, please stay safe and good luck. And we will be back in a month for another In Diaspora episode. In the meantime, my daily show will continue. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about contact tracing at an early episode at 1:15 p.m. Eastern. But thank you very much, everybody. And let's get everybody on the screen and say goodbye to you all. And thank you very much for being here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, MR, for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Very
so
nice to
much.
meet you.
Thank you, MR.
And Madhuvanti. Bye, Ricky.